My name is JC. I am 21 years old. At about 6 months old, I was adopted by my grandparents because my biological mother was an addict. She was unable to take care of me and hasn't had much clean time since I was born. My biological father is also an addict. He died when I was in 5th grade and I never got to meet him. But I call my grandparents mom and dad because they've always been my mom and dad. I would consider me and my parents best friends. Like, my mom's my best friend and my dad's my best friend in a completely different way. And we were like the Three Musketeers growing up. Just lived a normal life. I had the same friends growing up. My parents made sure to never move so that I grew up in the same small town and had the same friends and went through the same school system. It was pretty normal. My path towards drug use started, or pretty much any substances, probably around 13 or 14. I started drinking with friends. I just thought it was like the cool thing to do. I remember seeing on movies like all these like pretty girls like going and having their glasses of wine and like their martinis and stuff like that. And then I hit high school, and then it was like house parties, like going to house parties, drinking with friends, getting beers, just pretty much like fitting in, like who could be the most drunk. Like, it really wasn't that weird for people to get blackout drunk. Like, it was pretty much the goal. Probably sophomore year of high school, I had a boyfriend that had tried coke before. And I was like, I'm not gonna try it, I'm not gonna try it. My best friend had tried it with him. She's like, it's awesome, it's so great, like you should definitely do it. And all these people around me started doing it more and more. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll try it. So I went in the room and I put my head down on the thing with the straw, and I like scraped a little bit off the thing and just did a tiny, tiny bit. And I remember sitting there being like, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. And all of a sudden I sat there and I was like, oh, this actually feels kind of good. I feel okay. Like, my senses were so like magnified. I could hear everything, I could see everything. My mind was working at 100 miles an hour and I loved it. After I had tried something that made me feel so good, being normal was boring to me. And it was like, I don't really want to be normal anymore. I'm like, if they have these things that make you feel like this, why doesn't everybody do them? So what had flooded my school was Percocet 30 milligrams. I remember my best friend telling me, I don't know why this stuck with me, but she said, you do coke all the time. You don't even know what's in those bags. You don't even know what they put in it. You know how every single time makes you feel different is because they cut it with different stuff. You never know what you're getting in that bag. She said, I do perks because I know every single time that someone from a pharmacy is making this. And I guess that just kind of hit me, and I was like, she's right. She's right. I could die any single time I do a bag of coke because I don't know what somebody cut it with. But with a perk, I know I'll never die. And I like set up my stuff, I like crushed it up, put it into a line the same way I would coke. And I sat in my room that night all by myself. My parents are sleeping, they're across the hall. And I just did it. And I was like, sitting there watching Netflix on my computer. And all of a sudden I was like, I'm gonna throw up. I'm gonna throw up everywhere. I'm so sick. And like, it was a really cool feeling. Like, I was like, wow, my body feels so awesome. Like, my head feels clear. Like, this is really cool. And I just like, I started throwing up everywhere. I couldn't stop throwing up. That was really awesome. I'm like, that was really cool. And I think that's the difference between, I wouldn't say normal people, but non-drug addicts and addicts is, I've talked to people that are not drug addicts and they do these pills and they get really sick and they go, oh my God, I'm never going to do that again. That was awful. I'll take the pain rather than throw up. And addicts are so sick and they're like, that was awesome. Let's do it again. I can't wait till I can do it again. I was working at a restaurant, and a lot of the times in restaurants, there's a lot of young kids that are also in college, or they're not and they're just working, and a lot of the times in the restaurant industry there's a lot of drugs. And I had found out that a couple of the waitresses there were doing perks too, and they're like, we love it, we do it every single day, helps us go for long shifts, your back doesn't hurt, your feet don't hurt. I had realized that they were doing a lot of them, and what they would have is their dealer come to the restaurant and he would go pick up in that same town, he would drop his load off at Texas Roadhouse. Like, that's how many people were doing them. he'd probably pick up 20 to 30 pills and they'd be gone. I one day realized when I had stopped doing them, I didn't have them anymore, and I was like, I am so sick. I'm so sick. And I didn't have any money, and I was like, I don't know what's happening, like I'm so sick. And I think one of the kids that I had used with was like, you're dope sick. And I was like, how do I make it stop? He's like, you gotta stop doing the pills. And I was like, no, I'm not gonna stop doing them, they're awesome. And he's like, well then if you don't wanna be sick anymore, you have to get more. And then I realized that like doing one pill wasn't making me feel the same way. It wasn't making me a good waitress anymore, and it wasn't doing what it used to do. So then I had to get another one, and then it turned into 3 a day and 4 a day, and I was like, oh, this is ridiculous. I'm like, I can't like do this anymore. And I was sick more times than I was high because I didn't have enough money because my habit had gotten so high. And I remember laying in my bed one night, and I think that this was like the first turning point that I had, because I think when you're in active addiction you have a lot of turning points, and I think those are the times that you have to take a hold of. Like you have to get an addict when they're in that turning point, they're in that point of desperation, and I think that's the time where you have to act quickly and get them help, because they're finally letting their guard down and being like, okay, I need help. I talked to my primary care doctor, he's my pediatrician, so I wasn't even supposed to be at a pediatrician anymore. And I'm sitting here blurting my heart out to this guy, and I'm like, I need help, I can't stop doing these pills, I need help, and I think I'm gonna die. And he's like, well, how many have you been doing a day? I'm like, I don't know, on average 2 or 3, sometimes 4, I don't know. And he's like, you're not gonna die, I'll tell you that. He's like, you need to get a support system and you need help. He's like, there's meetings for people that are like you. And I said, yeah, I know AA meetings. My mom used to go to them, my biological mom. So I was dead dope sick. I went to a meeting with her, an AA meeting, and I sat through the whole thing, and I watched people get up and getting chips and for their months of sobriety, and people talking. And I remember the speaker talking to me being like, oh my God, that's how I feel. He's saying how I feel. And he's like, and this is how I got better. And I was like, oh my God. I'm like, thank God there's people like me. There's people that have been through this. This is so great. I'm like, this will be easy. This will be fine. Like, this will be so great. And I laid in my bed for the next 2 days, and I detoxed myself, and I was just so sick. And I kept working at the same restaurant, and I kept doing the same things. And one day, one of the girls at my work was like, we're all gonna get some. Did you want some? My back had hurt. I was on a double. And I was like, sure. Yeah, sure. Just get me one. What's gonna do? I've been sober for like 4 days, so I'll be fine when I do it. Back down the same path I was before. It was one day we had gone, and I was dead sick. It was the middle of summer. My car was so hot, and we could only afford $30 worth. So the dealer like took a little bit out of the 40 bag and was like, here you go. Like, cause we were like, oh, I had like change. Like, I didn't even have enough money to like get high. And I'm like, this isn't gonna get us both high if I smoke it. And he's like, well, you need to start shooting it. He's like, you're wasting it. I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, JC, just let me do it. And he's like, you just have to do it one time. It's not gonna hurt. I had all these fears that like my vein would come spewing out. Like, I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna be a mess. And so I finally, oh my God, I was shaking so bad, and I like just felt like I wanted to cry, and I just gave him my arm, and I was like, just do it. I was like, just do it. And I just closed my eyes, and I turned the other way, and it was 2 seconds, and I didn't even feel it. And he's like, you're done. And I was like, what? And he's like, it's done. And he like wiped the blood off. It was done bleeding, and I was like, what? And then he was like, do you feel anything yet? And I was like, no. And then all of a sudden, boom, it hit me, and I was like, holy. And it literally was just like a rush from the top of my head all the way down. It was the best feeling I'd ever felt my whole entire life. I was just not sick anymore. It was like all of a sudden, like my pores had like closed up from sweating, like my eyes were wide open. I was like, oh my God. And he like started dying laughing. He's like, I know, I told you. And he's like, just so you know, he's like, your life is over from this point on. And my dad went up in my room, and he grabbed my arms, and he was like, you've been using the needle, like you've been using a needle. And I was like, no, I haven't. And he was like, look at your track marks. And I was like, those are old, like I did before. And like, I don't think most people will know the feeling of watching your dad's eyes like fill with tears as he looks at the track marks on his little girl's arms. Like, I don't think anyone will ever know what that feels like.
And he looked at me and said, "You're gonna die. Like, I'm gonna lose you, you're gonna die." And I was like, "I don't care." I was like, "I don't care. I hope I do." I was like, "I'll never be that lucky." And he was like, "What's wrong with you?" And I was like, "I'm never gonna stop. I'm never gonna stop. I hope I die." And he was just like, and he just held me and held me for so long, and he just kept touching my track marks and holding me, and he was like, I don't want to lose like my little girl. And I don't know, it was so hard. And I went to detox again. This was like the 10th time I had been in detox, and I just couldn't get it. Just couldn't get help, and I didn't know how to do it, and I didn't know how to go about it, and I didn't know who could help me. And I was so lost, and I had just given up on myself, and I went to detox, and they just kept telling me, like, if you just don't get high, things will get better. If you just don't get high, things will get better. Your life will be so great. And I'm like, but how? But how do I not get high? And they're like, you just hold on. You just look till midnight. Just hold on. Just keep holding on. Hold on to your seat. And I was like, I can't keep holding on. I can't stop getting high. That's what you guys don't understand. And I was stuck in the middle of the Boston Commons with some random kid that I found, and he had a cell phone. My cell phone was out of minutes, and I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Like, I was like, I'm like dead dope sick right now. I didn't have anywhere to turn, and I called my mom first that morning after I had woken up, and I said, Mom, I need help. And she was like, where are you? And I said, I've been homeless. I'm in the middle of Boston. And she was like, I'm in the Boston Commons. My mom used to work in Boston. And she was like, okay. And I was like, well, can someone come get me? And she was like, no. And she was very kind about it too. She was very nice. She wasn't yelling. She was like, no one can come get you. And I was like, well, where am I supposed to go? And she goes, you know how far the hospital is. You go in there and you tell them that you're going to kill yourself. Because if you go and you say I'm going to kill myself, they'll immediately put you into, it's like called like section 13 or something. You just section yourself and you just say I'm going to kill myself. And they will get you into either a mental hospital or where you can detox. Or they get you into a detox, whatever has the bed open first. And she said, you know how the game works, go play it. And I was like, okay. I'm like, Mom, I like really need help, like I'm cold. And she was like, I'm sorry, I can't help you. And I was like, okay. And so I called my dad, and I was like, and I knew, I was like, my dad will come get me. If I really, really want him to come get me, like he'll come get me. And he was like, I'm sorry, Jace, I can't. And I was like, what? I'm like, what do you mean, no? And he was like, I can't come get you. He goes, you put yourself in this situation, you need to get yourself out of it. And I was like, but how? I was like, Dad, I'm so hungry and I'm so cold. And he goes, you know how much that hurts me to hear you say that? And he goes, but I can't do anything anymore. You need to get your self-help. And I was just like, what? Okay. And I was just shocked. And I called my sponsor, the one who always comes and gets me, always brings me a detox. She goes, not until you find a bed will I come get you. I'm not driving to Boston until you have a bed. You're not staying with me. You can sleep on the street for one more night if you don't have a bed anywhere. And I was like, and I was just so out of options. I was out of every single option in the world. I was just sitting there. I was like 19, I think. 19 years old, homeless, nothing to my name, no drugs anymore, nowhere left to turn. I was like, what happened? What happened? And I walked, and I walked, and I walked, and I walked, and I walked to a needle exchange that's in Boston. And I said, I need help. I need you guys to get me into detox. And thank God that they were there. And they're like, you can use our phone, you can use all our resources. This is all we do all day long, is help people get help. And they're people in recovery. And I just remember the girl was sitting with me and giving me cigarettes. Like, she was so nice. And she was like, I will do anything in my power to help you get into detox. And she got me a bed that night. And my sponsor picked me up, and she said, your parents are sending you. They had never paid for any rehabs because they thought it was a waste of money. If I wanted to get clean, I'd get clean. A lot of people have been known to get sober for good in this rehab in New Hampshire. It's not state funded. You have to pay for it. It's pretty expensive, but they have a completely different way of going about recovery than everyone else does. she's like, you need to go to this place and your parents are going to send you there. And I was like, what? Why? And she was like, because they know that you're going to die and they want to know that they did everything that they could before you died. And I was like, okay. And she's like, so you're going to go through this detox, your mom's going to pick you up and she's going to drive you up to New Hampshire. And this program broke you down and told you everything that you weren't and that the world did not revolve around you. And they taught you how to become a part of society again. And they sent me to a sober house through them. And I worked my butt off. I've never worked so hard in my whole life. I wanted more than anything to stay clean. And I wasn't going to let anyone get in my way. There's girls that had left to go and get high, and they're like, you want to come? And I'm like, nope. No. There's no way. There's no way I can go back to that. And I think that rehab gave me a taste of what life could be like. And, you know, like what life could be like sober. And I was like, holy, this could be really great. And from that point on, my life has just gotten better and better. That if somebody would have sat down with me and been like, here, we have like this team of people that's actually like trained to deal with this, and like maybe you just want to talk to them a little bit and like see if, you know, they could help you. I think talking about it and acting like it doesn't exist doesn't help anyone. And just because we're ashamed of people that become drug addicts and because there's such a stigma around it and because people don't like talking about it, doesn't mean it's just going to go away. And I think people need to talk about it more. I think people need to go into high schools and they need to tell people their story and tell them, you know, maybe not everyone in that high school is going to become a drug addict, but there are certain ones that I can tell you right now are going to have a drug problem. And maybe somebody coming into the school and being honest with them and being like, hey, if you do go down this path, there's people like me that got better. Maybe if somebody went into my high school and told me, hey, it's okay, like people do get better. I know your mom never did, and I know no one in your family ever did, and your dad died from it, but hey, there's people like us that do get better. And like we've been down the same path that you have. And like that's okay. And I think that not talking about it and pretending like it doesn't exist doesn't help anyone.